Abigail, the woman who stopped a war with wisdom when passions rage. One clever solution can save a kingdom. In a time ruled by blood and vengeance, where honor was defended by the sword and insults could spark a massacre, one woman stepped forward not with weapons, but with wisdom. Her name was Abigail, and though history often forgets the peacemakers, her story is one that saved a nation from violence and preserved the legacy of a future king. It was the 11th century BCE in ancient Israel. David, once a shepherd boy, now a fierce warrior, was in exile, hiding from King Saul. With hundreds of loyal men following him, David camped in the wilderness, living off the land, watching over the flocks of nearby landowners and protecting their herds from raiders. Among those landowners was Nabal, a man wealthy in possessions but poor in wisdom. He was known for his arrogance, greed, and harsh temper. His name literally meant fool, and he lived up to it. David's men had protected Nabal's shepherds for months without asking for payment. So when David sent messengers to kindly request some food and supplies, it wasn't a demand, it was a reasonable gesture of mutual respect. But Nabal mocked the messengers and insulted David, saying, "Who is this David? Should I take my bread and meat and give it to men coming from who knows where?" When David heard of this insult, fury rose in him like a storm. "Every man strap on your sword," he ordered. With 400 armed warriors, David rode out, determined to destroy Nabal and every male in his household. It was going to be a bloodbath, a brutal reminder of what happened to those who disrespected a warrior of God. But someone intervened. Someone who saw beyond pride and rage, someone who knew that a single wise voice could silence hundreds of angry ones. That someone was Abigail, Nabal's wife. When Abigail heard what her husband had done and that David was coming for vengeance, she knew she had to act. She didn't wait for permission. She didn't ask for help. She immediately gathered supplies. 200 loaves of bread, jugs of wine, roasted grain, raisins, and fig cakes, an extravagant offering meant to calm a warrior's fury. Then she mounted a donkey and rode straight into danger, alone, without telling her husband. Imagine the scene, a lone woman riding through the rugged hills, dust rising behind her, approaching an army of furious warriors led by one of the fiercest men in Israel. But Abigail didn't flinch. When she saw David, she dismounted, bowed low, and spoke words that would echo through history. "My lord," she began gently, "let the blame fall on me. Please listen to your servant." She admitted that Nabal was a fool and asked David not to stain his future reign with unnecessary bloodshed. "When the Lord has made you king," she said, "you will not have on your conscience the staggering burden of needless bloodshed." Her words were not just clever, they were courageous, humble, and filled with insight. She appealed to David's destiny, reminding him of who he was and who he was meant to become. She didn't challenge his strengths, she elevated his purpose. And David listened. The fire in his eyes softened. His hands, once clenched in fury, now trembled with realization. He looked at this woman, wise, brave, and composed, and saw the hand of God at work. "Praise be to the Lord," he said, "and to you, Abigail, for keeping me from bloodshed today." The massacre was canceled. David and his men turned back. No one died that night, not because of swords, but because of words. Abigail returned home, where Nabal was drunk and oblivious. She waited until morning, then told him everything that had happened. The shock struck him like lightning. His heart failed him, and within 10 days, he died. When David heard of Nabal's death, he didn't just remember the insult, he remembered the woman who had saved him from making a terrible mistake. He sent for Abigail and asked her to become his wife, and she agreed. Abigail became a queen not because of beauty alone, but because of bravery. Not because of status, but because of substance. She was the woman who stood between two forces of destruction and chose peace. Her story is more than ancient history. It's a modern message. In our world today, when egos collide, when tempers flare, when online insults escalate into real-world conflict, Abigail's example shows us another way, that sometimes the most powerful person in the room is not the loudest, but that wisdom can do what war never can: preserve dignity, protect life, and heal relationships. Abigail didn't wait for a miracle. She became the miracle. In a world that only expected her to be silent, she spoke up. In a culture that measured strength by violence, she showed the strength of grace. When passions rage, one clever solution can still save a kingdom.